Hello, good evening to you. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from news up at Adesawe Kanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Okonse. Tonight, President John Dramani Mahama poised to embark on his reset agenda with the swearing in of 6 ministers he described as to head these crucial ministries. Many more to follow in the coming days here on Ghana Tonight. Stay with us. We have a conversation on how things are unfolding. Meanwhile, newly sworn-in ministers have been charged to immediately declare their assets in compliance with the asset declaration law. But there are questions as to whether that law in its current state is fit for purpose in the fight against corruption among public office holders. Stay with us. We have a conversation tonight. And on the vexed matter of the presidential jet debate. Minority in Parliament, they're raising concerns about President John Mahama's recent use of his brother's private jet for official travels, stoking a debate about the presidential jet. Coming up again, we have a conversation tonight on the matter of this presidential jet. Is it an issue of security against the cost? And then also, what are the major considerations as well underpinning all of this? So stay with us. But there's some news as well that we've been following and developing story, quite unfortunate. In this package, some fire outbreaks reported in some parts of the country in the last 2 hours. We are monitoring a fire outbreak at the Medina area, Medina Market. We understand there's a fire outbreak there. The fire service is attending to the fire right now. We're also getting information at Chimota. That's a place we call Chimota, specifically a warehouse area. We're keeping an eye on how things are playing out there as well. There's a fire outbreak there, which we're keeping an eye on. The fire service will give us some updates on that shortly here on Ghana Tonight. And as always, you are an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
President John Dramani Mahama has directed his Chief of Staff to give a deadline for submission of asset declarations by appointees of his administration. At the swearing-in of 6 ministers, President Mahama warned he will not tolerate any appointee who exhibits gross disrespect and misconduct towards Ghanaians in his administration.
We must exhibit tolerance for their views and work to meet their aspirations. This government will not tolerate arrogance or disrespect for the people who elected us into office. Modesty and prudence must be the guiding principle upon which you, myself, and our Vice President fashion our governance.
Minister Designate for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Agnes Namomo Late, has promised to work to enhance the school feeding program if approved. Appearing before the Vetting Committee of Parliament, the Minister Designate said she will see to addressing these challenges.
I think the school feeding program is something that all of us appreciate because if a child is not properly fed, it affects the concentration in class. And so for the hands, I would say it's a good project that we intend to improve on.
The Minister Designate for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, Elizabeth Ofosu-Adjare, says government will work quickly to revitalize the Komenda Sugar Factory. The factory has remained dormant since the NDC government left office in 2017. Elizabeth Ofosu-Adjare stressed the importance of revamping the factory to reduce Ghana's reliance on sugar imports.
as we speak, it is not operational. And one of the major challenges the factory has suffered was lack of raw material to feed that industry and some missing parts. The total health of the factory should be done after an evaluation. And so I will work to ensure that we know the actual health of the factory. But it's obvious that we need that factory to work for the benefit of Ghanaians, because we are importing about $500,000 worth of sugar into this country.
The Minority Caucus has cautioned President Mahama's decision to appoint presidential staffers to the Jubilee House without recourse to a yet-to-be constituted Council of State. Okaikwe Central MP Patrick Yabwama addressed the press in Parliament.
We believe that the mode of appointment of the Cabinet Secretary was not done in accordance with the Constitution and ought to have been communicated separately from what the President or the communications outfit of the Presidency has done. We are asking for the proper thing to be done in accordance with the Constitution.
The Ghana Journalists Association, GJA, has given the police until the end of March to update the public on the murder of investigative journalist Ahmed Hussein Swale and the assault of journalist Lateef Idrisu. President of the association, Albert Kwabena threatened to take the case to the ECOWAS court if the police failed to provide updates on the state of the investigation.
It is very unfortunate and indeed disappointing that 6 years after the murder of Ahmed Swale, no arrest has been made. What is even more disheartening is the lackadaisical police investigations into the matter. The GJ has decided to take some decisive steps to resolve the matter. If by the end of March 2025, we have not seen or heard satisfactory reaction to our demand, we shall proceed to the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, Community Court of Justice, to seek resolution of this matter. We are preparing fervently towards that end.
This morning is on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. Now, this is some developing story I've been following over the last 30 minutes. In fact, it's a breaking news coming through right now. And there's a fire outbreak in the stand that's just occurred at the Achimota Petroleum. We got videos from one of our viewers on Ghana Tonight some few minutes ago. So this is the fire outbreak happening right now at Achimota Petroleum. And we understand the fire service are attending to this fire as we speak. And fortunately, we have a member of the fire service public relations department, ADO1 Alex Kinate, joining us on Zoom right now from the fire scene. This is Achimota Petroleum, and the fire is happening as we speak. And thankfully, our viewers there also updating us on how things are playing out. ADO1 Alex Kinate, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Hello?
Hello, Dennis.
Well, this is Alfred. Can you hear me? Okay. Now, we'll try to establish connection to ADO1 Alex Kinate with the Public Relations Department of Ghana Police. That's the Ghana Fire Service. We'll connect with him on the telephone. There seems to be a little hitch in the Zoom connection. He's at the fire scene, and rightly so. There's a lot of activity there because of what's happening right now. We're going to show you on the screen what we got from one of our viewers on Ghana Tonight, the fire at Achimota Petroleum. Let's put that on the screen right now. This is it. This is what's happening right now. And we understand this fire outbreak is been attended to by the fire service. We have a number of fire tenders that have been dispatched there. The last time, for just some 5 minutes ago, the eyewitness who gave us this information did indicate that some 3 fire tenders have arrived at this fire scene at Achimota Petroleum. That's what we do know right now, but we'll get some more details from the fire service shortly. Alex Kenate is joining us on the telephone. And good evening. And let's first confirm, you are the fire scene, and what we're seeing right now, what's the situation there?
So right now, the fire has been confined. It's almost under control. The unfortunate thing is that the extent of damage has been quite unfortunate. It's a 6-bedroom house, and by the looks of it, all the 6-bedroom is totally confined. The constraint for us was the fact that there was a simultaneous fire happening at Medina, where the appliance that responded here had to move all the way from the fire scene at Medina to come here to fight the fire. Fortunately, we've been able to confine the fire from further spread or spreading to adjoining buildings, but as it stands now, we are firefighting is still in progress.
So how many fire tenders are there as we speak?
So as we speak, we have 3 fire tenders. Fire tender from Abelenke, from Circle, and from our national headquarters are all here at Achimota as I speak.
So there are 3 fire tenders?
Yes, and there were 3 fire tenders also at Medina this evening at the Medina market, and then in the afternoon also 3 fire tenders.
Okay, so but then again, you say the fire has been contained. Is that to say that it's been brought under control and is currently doused, or the fire is still raging, but then again not affecting that's adjoining buildings to this 6-bedroom house we're talking about?
So a greater part of the building has been put out. A greater part, 6-bedroom house, and I think as of now we have just one of the bedrooms currently on fire, but we are fighting the fire. The challenge we were dealing with was with electric shock coming as a result of the electricity in the building. So as we kept fighting the fire, so it's giving a lot of serious sparks, which could have easily killed or injured any of the firefighters here. So our colleagues, our friends from the ECD just cut the power supply to the house, and so firefighting has, is still on. And I'm confident that in about an hour or at most 2 hours, we should be able to finally extinguish the fire totally.
I see. So this is specific to the 6-bedroom house in Achimota Petroleum. That's what you're giving us details about.
Exactly, yes, where I am currently.
So it's property that has been destroyed in this building, but talk about the occupants there, because we understand this fire started not too long ago. So I presume there were people in the house. What's the status of that?
I saw the owner here. Unfortunately, he looked scared. He didn't have his shirt on. He was just wearing shorts, and I don't know if he'll be able to get some clothing to wear. That's how the damage has been. There are some cracks in the building. We are hoping that these cracks shouldn't affect the structural integrity of the building, so that he'll be able to reconstruct the building back together. But as it stands right now, I'm looking at one of the rooms currently still raging, and we are fighting the fire. All the other rooms have been extinguished, but one of the rooms is still currently on fire.
I see. And these 3 fire tenders, you say, are fighting the fire at Achimota Petroleum, came from the Abelenke Circle and your headquarters.
Exactly.
And you're talking about another fire outbreak, which we got information of as well in Medina Market, correct?
Yes. So it was while we were at the Medina Market, with having extinguished the fire at Medina Market, then we got a call about the fire here at Achimota. So the fire team from our national headquarters in Abelenke were all at Medina and had to all move here to be able to fight this fire also.
So just for the benefit of our viewers and listeners on 3FM 92.7, the videos you're seeing right now are videos of the Medina Market stall fire outbreak. We understand this fire outbreak happened earlier in the Medina Market. But Edio and Alex Kenate, give us a bit more detail on this Medina fire. Which part of the market did it happen? How many stalls were affected? If you could give us some detail.
Okay, so it's just close to Malcolm, the new Malcolm that's built, and it started in a shop. So the shop contained different an assorted variety of things, including diapers, Ghana must go bags, different items packed in there. So the fire started in, and mind you, it's a chain of shops. So the fire could easily have spread. It was actually spreading. But for the dexterous efforts of our officers, we would have had a major market fire on our hand. But we were able to contain the fire within just that particular shop and prevented it from spreading to the adjoining shops. Because, mind you, there were shops opposite and close to it, which could have easily spread. There was a cold store near. There were other shops and then other stores. So we were able to contain it to just one of the shops.
Is this within the market itself or by the roadside? Because that Medina Zongo Junction market had some of these stores located along the road and then the market itself. So where is this location exactly?
It's the market itself. And this one was not too far from the Fidelity Bank, So it's within the market. We have the big markets where that place got burnt recently, the world one. So this is just outside the wall, but it's also part of the greater markets of Medina.
And this adds on to the many market fires that we have recorded since the beginning of the year, is it not?
Exactly, but due to our proactive measures we put in place, that's how come it didn't turn into one of the market fires that we recorded. We're able to contain it to just one shop. And even with that, looking at the video, you realize that, yes, there's a lot of damage. But I'm sure, once salvaging is done, they might be able to get something to hold on to.
So we're keeping an eye on how things are unfolding at this Medina market fire outbreak, what you're seeing on the screen right now, and also the Achimota Petroleum fire outbreak, which is affected a six-bedroom house, raised down as we speak right now. Ms. Alexander, do you want to make a point quickly?
Yes, so mind you, before the Medina market, there was another fire again at Medina, where over 40 wooden structures got burnt again. So that one also we had to dispatch 3 fire attendants to fight the fire. So whilst they were fighting the fire simultaneously, there was the fire at Saboba.
We're going to get into the Saboba one in a bit. So you're saying that earlier there was another fire outbreak in Medina that affected 40 wooden structures?
Yes.
Where exactly?
Around the Medina warehouse. It was close to a building, but we were able to salvage the building from the fire. But about 40 wooden structures and containers unfortunately got burnt in the structures.
Today has been a day of unfortunate incidents of fire outbreaks, for you. But then you talk about the Saboba matter, and after dealing with all of these instances here in Accra, the 2 Medina fire outbreaks and what's happening right now in Achimota Petroleum, which you're keeping an eye on, a tragic incident at Saboba EP Senior High School in the Northern Region has led to 801. Please stay with me. Don't go as yet, because I need you on this one as well, because we understand that this fire outbreak at the Saboba EP Senior High School in the Northern Region has led to the death of 1 person following that fire outbreak at the girls' dormitory block. Now, the fire outbreak, which we've got videos of, we're going to put on the screen right now, destroyed several personnel issues that we're actually seeing, has been assigned to these wards and the children in them. And some of the students, as a matter of fact, have lost all their words. What you're seeing on the screen right now is said to be the body of the deceased, name withheld. But the Ghana police attended to the situation. That's the body bag containing the remains of the deceased in this particular incident. We understand this is a girl specifically. We'll get some details shortly. Christopher Mwako is our Northern and Savannah Regional correspondent. He has been to Saboba earlier today to get some more information on this. Chris, really unfortunate to say the least, but give us a bit more detail on what we're seeing right now, this Saboba Senior High School incident and the death of this girl.
I must say that it's really an unfortunate incident that befell the girls of Saboba EP Senior High School. And as we speak, one person has died out of a fire outbreak, and several properties belonging to the students have also been destroyed. It was pathetic that when the fire service actually even got to the school, they could not use their fire tender to douse the fire. They have to resort to buckets belonging to the students to be able to douse the fire. If you go to the girls' dormitory as we speak, beds, mattresses, personal belongings have all been destroyed by the fire that affected the girls' dormitory earlier today.
I see. And who is this, the deceased? Is she a student of the school?
Yes, the deceased is a student of the school, and we are told that when the dormitory caught fire, she was inside and could not actually come out, and so that led to her death. Very unfortunate, Alfred.
And this is a Saboba EP Senior High School.
Exactly so, Alfred.
But with the fire service, I know you spoke to them. What's been their account? We'll recall that a bit, but what did they tell you?
Yeah, so as it stands now, they've not been able to ascertain the cause of fire. But one worrying situation, Alfred, has to do with the fact that when they were called, they arrived at the scene exactly 1:43 p.m. And when they tried using the fire tender, Alfred, they could not because the pump was not working. So they have to resort to buckets belonging to students to be able to douse the fire. The students had to actually, and staff of EP Senior High School in Saboba had to help the fire service to be able to put off this fire. And after this raises concerns on the issues of the fire tenders dotted across the various districts in the country. And this is something that, according to the Ghana National Fire Service, in the Saboba community, this is a very big challenge for them. And it's about time that a critical look is given to these fire tenders. Alfred, let's take a listen to what the Saboba District Fire Commander has been telling us.
At 13:39 hours this afternoon, we received a running call from one Isaiah Sumponya at the station reporting a fire outbreak involving a dormitory at the EP Secondary School. Within a minute, the personnel were dispatched, and at 13:43 hours, they were at the fire scene. As soon as they got to the fire scene, the fire was raging, and they have to engage the pump to fight the fire. And it's unfortunate there is a pump failure. You know, as usual, the applier is being tested every morning. This morning it has been tested and it proved positive. So we're sure that everything that will come on our way will be able to tackle it. But it's so unfortunate that when they go to the fire scene, the fire, the pump fails. So we have no option than to resort to fetching water in buckets. With the assistance of the students and the staff and all those who were here, we're able to put the fire off as at now. But it's so unfortunate that one student reported.
So, Chris, quite concerning to say the least. So that's ADO1 Yusuf Isahako, is the district fire officer for Saboba. So he said they tested the fire tender, and when there was a fire outbreak, they attended to the fire. And when they got there, the water pump was not working. So they had to fight this fire that has destroyed the entire dormitory of the girls' dormitory there by fetching water with buckets. That's how they fought this fire. It probably then explains, and what we're seeing on the screen right now, if you're having to fight fire with buckets, fetching water with buckets, it clearly then explains why this girl, and Chris, you're saying that the deceased was trapped in the dormitory. She couldn't get out. And so it stands to reason that if maybe, all things being equal, the fire service had gotten there earlier and had their pumps working, there could have been a chance of some life for this disease, is it not?
Yes, Alfred, it actually took the fire service some time to be able, because when they got there, they were certain that their pump was working. They tried severally, it didn't work. So they had to now call on the students to bring their buckets. And you know, it wasn't the students from the female dormitory that brought their buckets for them to use. So the boys had to rush to their dormitories, bring the buckets for them to use to fetch the water. So looking at the time frame that was spent trying to figure out a solution to this, that could account for the reason why one person lost her life. If the fire tender was in good shape, as in if the pump was working, probably they would have been able to save this innocent soul.
Sad one. Chris, appreciate you on this. Christopher Marco, thank you very much. A Northern and Southern Region correspondent on this here on Ghana Tonight. And we've been following a number of cases of fire outbreaks in Saboba in the Northern region that has led to the death of one student in the Saboba EP Senior High School, fortunate, and also 2 fire outbreaks in Medina here in the Greater Accra region, one that is also happening right now. The fire service has attended to that at Achimota Petroleum as well. There was another one at Medina Warehouse and the Medina Market itself. So it's been troubling, to say the least. But we're keeping an eye on how things are playing out in all of these areas. But this is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, the minority in parliament, they've raised concerns about President John Mahama's recent use of his brother's private jet for official travels, stoking another debate about the presidential jet and matters arising. This was quite topical in Parliament earlier today. And let's do a quick recall of the happenings in Parliament on this matter of the presidential jet. The Finance Minister, Dr. Kasil Atofo-Singh, has debunked the claims that President John Mahama used a private jet for his recent visit to the United Arab Emirates. The claims were made by Dominic Nituo, the former defense minister, in Parliament earlier today, sparking a debate over the cost of the president's travel to that particular country. Proceedings became chaotic, forcing the second deputy speaker of Parliament, Andre Siama Mwako, to suspend the House for 30 minutes. Take a look.
As Minister for Defense, and the records available to me, President Mahama kept on renting private jet anytime that the president, anytime that the I'm saying anytime that the president's jet was not available, the communication squadron jet was not available for whatever reasons, the president always rented it and used it. The difference today is that the current jet is serviceable. It can move. It is working. I traveled with the President Mahama, in his recent trip to the UAE. He did not use private jet. I was on the flight. I was on the flight with him. We use Emirates. So let no one create. And Mr. Speaker, the immediate past defense minister made a statement that President Mahama traveled on a private jet, rented a private jet. I challenge him to bring us evidence now. I challenge him to bring us evidence now. Mr. Speaker, you cannot just make statements without justifications. You can't. You can't. Bring us evidence to prove that he has traveled or rented a private jet.
So that's Dr. Kasil Atofo-Singh there, is a finance minister sworn in today by President John Dramani Mahama. This matter of presidential jets comes up every now and then. Last week, the president traveled to Senegal and the Gambia with the private jet belonging to his brother, Ibrahim Mahama. But this recent travel to the UAE, according to the detail we got today from Dr. Kasila Tuforsing, President John Mahama flew with a commercial flight. So there are two different issues at play now. But if you recall, when this matter was quite topical from 2020 before the elections and flowing into 2021, the then Minister in charge of National Security, Honorable Albert Kandapa, gave this response to a question that was filed by Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa. In fact, there was a back and forth about this whole thing. First, the finance minister was called a number of times, eventually then attended to Parliament's invitation, and during the answer to that question of how much it cost you and I, the taxpayer, for the then President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, to be flying on the private jet, chartering the private jet, that question, the answer was that, quote, payments out of that ministry's operational funds are clothed with rules of confidentiality and state secrecy. And it is not the general practice in the intelligence community everywhere to make the suggested disclosures public. So essentially, Albert Kandapa's response to the question from Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa about how much it was costing you and I, the taxpayer, and the state in funding the former president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's foreign travels using the private jets that he hired. So it was top secret national security information that cannot be disclosed. This was after the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, said that question about the cost of the presidential travels can best be answered by this man. Then Albert Kandapa gave us this particular answer. And in fact, it was not Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa alone who was asking that question about the cost of presidential travels. I recall that during that same period in December 2021, Paul Chumberima, the former MP for Doma East constituency, also filed a question asking how much it cost the taxpayer on the commercial flights that the former president, then John Mahama, had been flying while he was president. That was between 2012 and 2016. But all of this, the Honorable Kandapa said that it was top secret national security information that cannot be disclosed. But at the time, this was the cost that Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa put to it, with a number of documents that he published with its numerous exposés, $15,000 an hour. That was the cost that Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa put to the hiring of the jets, that's the private jet by former President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Now, in that same debate in December 2021, when this answer was given by Albert Kandapa, the Boko Central Member of Parliament, Mama Yarega, was expected to be named as the majority leader, then put up this question that the Supreme Court shall have exclusive jurisdiction to determine whether an official document shall not be produced in court because its production or the disclosure of its content will be prejudicial to the security of the state or will be injurious to the public interest. So in that matter of whether this cost of presidential travels is top secret or not, it is within the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. But all of this then comes up to the matter of either a security issue or the cost issue. Well, this matter came up in Parliament as well. Dominic Nitiwo says that the country is not broke. Ghana has resources to fund the president's travels, even if he has to use a private jet, and not that of his brother, which, according to Phyllis Kwatio-Fosu, did not cost the nation a dime. He says that he would rather the president would fly a jet that the country can pay for it. And so that option of going with his brother's private jet is not one that he supports on the security perspective. Take a listen to Dominic Nitiwo, the former defense minister, earlier today.
Ghana is not a cheap country. We will not chip in ourselves. Ghana is not a cheap country. We will not chip in ourselves. Ghana has been a torchbearer in Africa. Ghana is one of the most important countries in Africa. The president, who is the #1 citizen, must be protected by air, by sea, and by land. The president's life is very important for all of us. The courtesies that a president must have is very important for all of us. I find it very offensive that our jet is serviceable and our president will not use it. I find it very offensive. Is that President Akufo-Addo has not rented any private jet to travel within the country. West Africa, yes. Outside West Africa, yes. But in the country, no. That is also not correct, because that's what you said, that is rented just and is traveling within the country. And Mama will not do that. It's not also true.
So this matter of the presidential jet and presidential travels is more security related than the politics of it. But rightly so, you see the underpinnings of the politics in there. And this is why, as we're focusing on the most important aspect of this entire conversation, the security aspect, Dr. Ishmael Norman is a security expert and CEO of the Institute for Security and also Safety and Disaster Management and Emergency Studies. He's joining us right now. Dr. Ishmael Norman, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Hello, Doc. Good evening. Unfortunate, we lost that connection to Dr. Ishmael Norman. But this is one that it's an issue that keeps coming up every now and then. But then again, if you recall, when we spoke to Phyllis Kwatiofosu, who is the spokesperson to President John Dramani Mahama, he did indicate that, one, because the presidential jet is undergoing some security checks, so it was not ready at the time when President John Mahama had to travel to the Gambia and Senegal. But Dr. Ishmael Norman, can you hear me? Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Okanzi. I can hear you.
And I thank you very much for agreeing to talk to us this evening. So now, according to the former defense minister, 2 days before the inaugural ceremony, the swearing in of President John Dramani Mahama as president, that's the 7th January, the 5th of January, the former president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, flew on this presidential jet. And so, in his argument, it was fit for purpose. Phyllis Kwatiofosu says this jet is being reviewed security-wise, and so it is not ready for the president to use. I mean, looking at how things are playing out from the security perspective, what really, beyond what the president did, was the best option for him?
Thank you very much, Mr. Okanzi, and good evening to your listeners.
I can hardly hear you, sir.
I said thank you for the occasion and good evening to your listeners. I don't see the noise that the former Minister of Defense is making, who used to be my former boss, and I like him very much, but I think he's just making noise because His Excellency President John Mahama is not ex-President Akufo-Addo. He is not obligated to mimic everything that ex-President Akufo-Addo did. He has his own way. He's an adult, responsible adult. He can make independent judgment. He can decide to go with a commercial jet, or he can decide to go with a presidential jet when the need arises. I simply don't see the rigmarole that Mr. Honorable Minitihu is making, that it disgraces Ghana that is going on his private jet. What is a disgrace there? He is not bragging about Ghana's wealth. He's going there for a meeting.
Ghana is not a cheap country. And so really, for the president to talk about flying on his brother's private jet to save the country, the cost, in his view, it's a cheap option to take because he was looking at the president's security as well.
They would like to see President Mahama spend so much money like their president used to do, and so that they can get excuses to condemn him. And so they are desperately trying to create, this is a bait. And I know President Mahama is so experienced, he's not going to take it. What is the harm here? What is the harm? Honorable Nitiwo, there is no harm here. So for me, the bragging that he's doing is just for his own ego. Ghana is not broke. President Mahama hasn't said Ghana is broke. President Mahama is not egotistic. And so for me, we can ignore all the things that his former Minister of Defense is saying. Secondly, he just took over the presidency barely 15 days, getting to 16 days in a few hours. Now, the aircraft, after every 25 hours of flying the aircraft, after every 25 hours of using the aircraft, it has to be maintained. After every 100 hours, it has to have very serious maintenance. And beyond that, it goes for serious maintenance. The man just took over the presidency. He wants to make sure that everything is going smoothly. He cannot trust the people that are in control of the airport, of the airline. He has to ensure the engine is right. They have to swap it for spying, listening devices. He has to swap it for all kinds of sabotage. They have to make sure that every part of the airport is airline is in good condition. I don't see the trouble that Honorable Nitiwo seems to be having. If President Mahama travels within the country on a military helicopter, what is wrong with that? At least his private seat is not being carried in a V8 engine vehicle behind him. What is wrong with that? There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So for me, I don't see the complaint. I don't see the rigmarole that Honorable Nitiwo is making. I respect him dearly. I like him very, very much, but I think he's totally wrong on this one.
Well, he listened to his argument, primarily pinned the central focus of his position is that from the security perspective, as a former defense minister, he wouldn't have rather allowed the president to fly on a private jet belonging to his brother. He would rather even go for the option of paying for a jet that the nation can afford for him to go on. So essentially, it's just about the security perspective. That's what he is saying, really, to buttress the point about the fact that to the extent that the jet was used by the former President Nana Addo on January 5th, 2 days to January 7th, there was really no reason for President John Mahama to have not used it.
Mr. Okanzi, Mr. Nitiwo's argument is neither here nor there. It is not about Ghana being broke. It's a choice that the president, the sitting president has made. He should respect it. He is not an aviation expert. With all due respect to him, he's not an aviation expert. He cannot speak on the authority of aviation skills or core competencies. He was the ex-minister of defense, and that's where it should end. He shouldn't seek to advise the current president because he hasn't asked for it.
I see. But then it appears that this matter is maybe not going away anytime soon because it keeps coming up every now and then. For many, for the likes of Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, even if the option of the president opting for other means of travel should be considered, you and I, the taxpayer, should know how much it's costing the nation. Because you hear Dominic Nitiwo say President John Mahama, in his first term, also flew some commercial flights. And so that is some sort of a justification for what the former president, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, did in flying these private jets as well. But then again, you and I are left in the dark and not knowing exactly how much it's costing, because that's another fundamental issue. In the US and in the UK, there are public disclosures of how much the taxpayer is paying for presidential travels. What should be the way forward on this?
I believe that President Mahama has learned his lessons. All the mistakes that he made previously are not going to be repeated. Today, upon swearing in some of the appointed ministers, he reminded them his government is not going to accept arrogance and rudeness. And so for me, I think that what happened in the past cannot be used to describe what President Mahama is going to do now. You can see that the man's entire persona, if you profile him, you can see that he's really a changed individual. Give the man the chance. 15 days is not enough to judge what he's going to do. And so far, he traveled to the UAE on a commercial flight. He didn't use private jet. He used a commercial flight. And when they go to the UN, all the African presidents, when they fly their jets to the UN, to New York, they park very, very far away from JFK. And then they use a train or buses or limousines to go to their aircraft. Is that something wrong with that? Absolutely not. I think sometimes when we're talking, we don't put things in perspective. Here we are, so many people unemployed, and the former Minister of Defense is talking about somebody helping this country reduce cost of his travel. What is the point of his complaint? That money that Mr. Mahama has saved for going with his brother, that money can probably build a school so that we won't have a school on the tree. Let us look at the economic aspects of the activities that are happening and to criticize it that way. Because Ghana is in debt, over 750 billion, and we are not thinking about how we're going to solve that. You're thinking about Ghana is not broke. My God, that is wrong.
Dr. Ishmael Norman, appreciate your time on this. Thank you very much for joining us, always.
You're welcome.
Dr. Ishmael Norman is a senior research fellow and also a lecturer at the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College, the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College. If you hear him saying Dr. Dominic, that's the Honorable Dominic Nitiwo was his former boss, that's what he meant by that, because he's still with the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College and the CEO of the Institute for Security, Disaster and Emergency Studies there. This is Ghana Tonight. Stay with us on this one. Let's go into another issue which still has to do with the presidency of President John Mahama. Coming up next, the newly sworn in ministers have been charged to immediately declare their assets in compliance with the asset declaration law, but there are questions as to whether the law in its current form is fit for purpose. Now, so let's go straight to the presidency. And earlier today, President John Dramani Mahama, in swearing in the 6 ministers, charged them to declare, in fact, start the processes to declare their assets. Take a look.
I expect all of you to begin the process of declaring your assets. The Chief of Staff will I expect all of you to begin the process of declaring your assets. The Chief of Staff will announce the cutoff date by which time all eligible appointees should have deposited their assets declaration forms with the Auditor General. As the ministers are approved by Parliament and as they are sworn in, I'll proceed to name deputy ministers for some of the ministries, which will bring the total ministers to 60, as I promised the people of Ghana.
So that's President John Dramani Mahama there, and Dr. Kasila Tufuosim, the finance minister sworn in today, also spoke on behalf of his colleagues who were sworn in today by the president, assuring him of hitting the ground running with a reset agenda. We'll recall that shortly. Adam Senano, co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, is also going to be joining us in a bit to have a conversation on this matter. This is what Dr. Kesela Tofosin said.
the misgovernance and misrule of the previous administration. We've learned, indeed, that Ghanaians will not tolerate such misgovernance any longer. We've taken a cue from what you've just told us. We want to assure you that we will serve and serve in such a way to make you the best president in the Fourth Republic.
Well, so that's Dr. Kasil Ato forcing them. Adam Senano is the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, is joining us on Zoom for a conversation on this right now. Mr. Senano, appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. It's a little challenge with Mr. Senano's connection on Zoom. We'll try to rectify that right after this quick break. Stay with us here on Ghana Tonight.
One bucket of flamingo paint is equal to several
Welcome back. This is Ghana Tonight, and Mr. Serrano, co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, is joining us on Zoom right now. Mr. Serrano, thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. You heard the President, John Dramani Mahama, there directing the newly sworn-in ministers to begin processes to declare their assets. Much of the same we've seen with previous presidents of this country. Beyond this directive, what must be done to ensure that this is complied with and also improving on the asset declaration regime as we have it?
Thank you. I mean, we have all, those of us in the good governance anti-corruption space, have drawn the firm conclusion that the current regime is not fit for purpose. Two things matter: verification and publication. And I'd like to challenge the president that, look, we don't even actually have to wait for those changes to have been done by law. Bold president can instruct his appointees to make sure that the declarations are available to be made public. And not just that, also instruct the Auditor General, who is responsible to have custody of this, to do verification that whatever they've placed there is actually what it is. So constituting a team to verify these high-profile appointees and giving the assurance that this will be public. I mean, that is how you begin to show that you're serious about making sure that the fight against corruption is tangible and we make progress. So those are the two things: verification of what has been put on paper, so persons do not, as it were, enlarge or exaggerate what it is they have in anticipation of what they might get, on one hand. And secondly, say that other persons who have information on the specific candidate or appointee and are so minded can cross-check and see whether everything they are aware of has been adequately captured. I think that's a very important thing that we can do. And the president can speak to the reviewing and upgrading of that law such that we have it in a shape that will serve the country's best interest whenever we have persons appointed.
I see. So for you, the underlying issue is that the current state of this asset declaration law is not fit for purpose in the fight against corruption, because even the Auditor General who receives it cannot even open it.
Exactly. That's the best practice in all jurisdictions. Our, who we call senior brother Nigeria, is already doing that. These asset declarations are public, So, yes, one would love the law to come into place. But just as a show of good faith, the appointees can begin that trend and ensure that there's a team constituted to verify that what is on paper is actually the case, so that we begin a new lease of life in terms of this asset declaration regime. And we should speed up efforts to have it reviewed and graded so that it is in line with good practice across the globe. And the approach is that it is put in an envelope, sealed, and left with the Auditor General, and nobody is cross-checking, So it's really not providing the whole import of why you do an assets declaration. That's not the import of it. That's not the expectation, That's not the desired outcome. So we will not be able to tell. If we want to be able to tell, then the baseline situation must be verified. Truly, this is it, the number of house numbers of cars and property, land, whatever. And then you can come back after a certain period and cross-check and say that, look, over this period, these additional houses, cars, whatever, were acquired. And then compare it with the resources. What were the inflows in terms of emoluments? Is it reasonable to expect that these things could have been procured and owned? If not, what are the other sources? That's how it is done. But without clearly cross-checked, validated baseline situation of what assets this public officer own, it becomes difficult subsequently to confirm and ascertain what has transpired in between.
I see. So publication of the assets so declared and the verification of it for you is the way to go. So we get to know the assets that these appointees own and not just the Auditor General getting to receive a form. We'll see how this debate eventually evolves in the coming days because the President has just given this directive. But I want to thank you very much. Adam Senano is the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. I appreciate your company joining us here on Ghana Tonight for the last 60 minutes. Join us same time tomorrow for another conversation. My name is Alfred Okanse. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Spirit of the new year. Happy 2025, everyone. Today's woman is back on your screens, of course, to still show the spotlight or throw the spotlight on women who are breaking barriers and breaking the glass